So today was the last day of my 72-hour fast. The workout that you're seeing right now on screen is me doing 5 sets of dips. This was fasted. This was earlier in the day. As of me recording this video of me just talking, I had already broken my fast. And I just want to kind of share my experience with the 72-hour fast, right? So to first start off with, I was not doing this 72-hour fast for any body composition goals or whatever the case may be. I already feel like I'm lean enough. It's not like I'm trying to really cut down on anything. Of course, I did experience some weight loss, but that's just to be expected with, something like, literally not eating any solid food for 3 days. And in terms of, what I had during the fast, it was mostly just water with like maybe a little bit of salt in it to help with electrolytes and to help me retain water better. And on my second day in the morning on an empty stomach, I had lime juice. I just squeezed some limes into like a teacup, and I mixed it with like a little bit of brown sugar, and I drank that just for kind of like the laxative effects, just to kind of get whatever else out of my system, after the first day of me fasting. And I had vitamins, right? So I had, of course, still had vitamins, vitamin B12 and vitamin K2. But I don't consider that to like break my fast. It was just like literally these like powdered vitamins that I had, that I usually always have, right? So what I gained from this experience is incredibly interesting. Why I did this experience is something I'm going to share, and just to take you throughout my whole journey all the way up to when I broke my fast, right? So starting off, I'm already used to fasting in general, intermittent fasting, Ramadan, 36-hour fast, right? And I really wanted to try and test myself to see if I can withstand 3 days of no eating, right? 72 hours, that's 3 days of like no eating any solid food. And it's not like I did like a juice fast. It's not like I did like a fruit fast, quote unquote, or whatever. It's not like I did I don't know, whatever. Like it was mostly water. It was mostly water that I had. And I survived. I'm alive. I'm alive right now, still standing. I worked out 3 days consecutively, completely fasted, right? And just to kind of, not to like show off or anything, but just to kind of like see for myself what the human body is truly capable of. And that was one thing I've definitely been able to test and try out with just the 3 days, right? And another thing too is all of these scientific and health benefits. Fasting will literally prolong your life. Your physiology will change, things like that. Your body's going to rebuild itself internally. When you are basically giving your digestive system a rest, your digestive system is going to heal and is going to be able to move a lot more quickly when you start eating. And when you're not eating, it's going to allow you to remove a lot more obstructions. It's going to work harder to clean itself because it doesn't have to worry about bringing down any new food or any new materials that you're putting inside of it. And another thing too is your cells, right? When you fast, when you go a certain amount of time without eating, you will go through a state of autophagy. And what will happen is that your cells will start rebuilding themselves. Old cells will be broken down and they'll be recycled and they'll be made into new, stronger cells. And again, like I said, that's like all the cells throughout your body, right? And when you are doing, going through fasting, going through autophagy, what's going to happen is that your body's going to use I know I've mentioned this so many times on the channel, your body's going to go through a state of ketosis. So instead of using glucose, which is our most frequent energy source, and the reason why it's our most frequent energy source is because of how often we eat on a day-to-day basis, multiple times a day, every day. And instead of using glucose, it's going to go to your ketones, right, which is basically the fat storages within your body. And what happens is that now you're using a different energy source that doesn't require you to actually have to consume any food. And let's say if you're sick or if you have any type of sicknesses, it will kill those sicknesses, because most viruses, most sicknesses that happen within the human body, they need glucose in order to survive. They basically survive off of the food that we eat. And basically, if you're not eating, you're starving those viruses, you're starving those sicknesses, right? It's even been proven to kill off cancer cells when you are fasted, right? Or at least when you're in a state of ketosis, right? There's people who do keto diet, carnivore diet. They're going to be able to easily access ketosis, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just do intermittent fasting, or you can do like 36-hour fast every other week, or every week if you want, and definitely try and build up to it. I wouldn't say don't just jump into a 3-day fast. You might be able to do it, but it's going to be very dangerous if you're not used to fasting whatsoever. If you wake up first thing in the morning, eat breakfast, that's a big no-no. Don't start doing that. Don't start doing 36-hour fast. Don't start doing 3-day fast. Start off with just like intermittent fasting, right? 16, 18, or just waking up and not eating breakfast in the morning. With the entire experience, of course, of me fasting, of course, I got hungry, right? But it was interesting with the foods that I was craving. A lot of the food that I was craving would have been like junk food, right? I've also been door dashing, right? So of course I'm going to be smelling people's orders and stuff like that. And now it's not like I thought of like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to tear into their food and start eating it. No thought like that crossed my mind. But it brought me back to all the times I've had that type of food, all the times I've had McDonald's and Wendy's and Checkers and Chipotle and all these other types of like, fast food, junk foods, right, that aren't good for you. It made me think of that, and it made me think of like how good those foods taste, right? But they're not good for you. They just taste good because they put stuff in it, right? But if you really strip that food down to its bare essentials of what it is, it's truly disgusting. And like that, those are thoughts that were crossing my mind a lot. And at some point, as I was still door dashing, delivering these people's food, right, I got less and less hungry, and the smell of the food became less and less appetizing. And it's just kind of like, this is interesting. It's not really anything like that. Now, in terms of energy levels throughout the fast, first day was definitely the hardest. I'd say the second day was a bit comparable to the first day, but I don't think it was as hard as the first day. I did do like a good amount of physical work. I mowed the lawn, I did some chores around the house, I worked out yesterday. And then today, which was the last day, in the morning I woke up with like a pretty good amount of energy. All of like the things that I felt like having like a completely like empty stomach, I didn't feel that as much throughout this day, throughout the last day. Just any like tiredness or like a little bit of fatigue, I didn't feel like that. There's one thing to keep in note of, right, is like if you get up too fast, if you get up way too fast, whether you're laying down or you're sitting on the couch, if you get up way too fast, it can cause like a little bit of like lightheadedness. So it's like I had to keep reminding myself, like, make sure I get up slow, and that I kind of stay still a little bit and just breathe a little bit, so that way if I start walking, I don't end up like, bumping my leg on something and then now I fall over, right? But that wasn't much of a problem. As long as you're making sure that you're staying hydrated and drinking water, you have to drink enough. And then whilst you're fasting, it might sound counterintuitive, right? Because you're not consuming energy. So how can you expend that energy? But you have to kind of try and like be moving a little bit. Just try walking, just something simple as walking. Maybe you don't have to do intense resistance training. But in my last video, I explained how I think it's important to still do resistance training so your muscles don't start wasting away. So that way you're reminding your body during a fast, you remind your body like, hey, I still need these muscles. Let me keep them on by training them. And then I'm not gonna, take away nutrients from them and make them smaller so I can, feed the rest of the body. And then coming to breaking the fast was so interesting. Like yesterday and some parts of the beginning of today, I was like, I can't wait to eat. And what happened is like, when I was going to sleep last night, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to eat tomorrow. I'm gonna end my fast tomorrow. I get to eat. It was like as if it was like gonna be like, it was like Christmas Eve, me falling asleep on Christmas Eve, waiting for Santa Claus to come and give me my presents. But it was kind of like anticlimactic. So one thing is to mention, I should mention this. The 3 days before I fasted, right? I had 7 days prior. I've just only been eating fruits, and before that 7 days, I had just got through doing a 36-hour fast. So 36-hour fast, 7 days of eating like mostly fruits with some seeds and peanuts, and then and some vegetables, of course, some vegetation, and then 72-hour fast after that, right? And so when it came about time, like maybe an hour before I had to eat, it was like my excitedness just kind of went away and it diminished. It was like, I don't feel hungry to eat the food. I don't feel like I'm starving. I don't feel like I'm jumping at the food, like, oh, I just can't wait, like I'm a rabid dog behind a cage waiting to like attack on a squirrel or something. It was just like, okay, I'm gonna eat, this is the end of the fast, let me eat. And we had like these big mangoes. I didn't take a picture of it. We had like these big mangoes. We just went to the farmer's market recently, and I had 3 of them, and I got pretty full from that. And when I ate it, it wasn't like, and they were like ripe. They were pretty ripe, right? They weren't like sour or anything. They weren't spoiled, so they tasted good. But it wasn't like the taste was like giving me what's called like a mouth orgasm. It's not like the sensations on my tongue of the juices of the mango was like making me ascend to a higher being or whatever, or giving me like some type of high. It was just like, okay, I'm eating. It just felt like another day of just me eating. It didn't feel like as if like, oh my gosh, I just traveled 5 million miles and I get to finally eat. Finally. Yes, thank you. It didn't feel anything like that. It just felt like it was just another day. Like the whole 3 days that I wasn't eating prior to that, it didn't feel like, it felt like as if it felt like as if I did not eat 3 days, full 3 days, right? It was so interesting. It was like, I was just content and I was comfortable with what I was just eating. It wasn't like I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I gotta scarf this down. I gotta eat more of this. And that brought me back to the first time when I was trying out just eating like fruit for 7 days. It was until maybe I think around the 4th or the 5th day when I started craving cooked food like crazy. Like I was literally like twitching and like shaking my head no, and like, just doing all these things that like I was a crackhead or something, like about scratching my neck whenever I smelled like, my dad frying something. And it's just so funny. It was like and then the day after, or sorry, the last day, the 7th day of me eating those fruits, the first time, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can't wait for this to be over so I can just start eating my dad's food. I can't wait. Please, just let it be over. And so yesterday, and then the day after, that evening, I ate the food and like, oh my gosh, it was like, thank you, Jesus. Good Lord. And like the way it like was on the tongue and tasted on everything, it was just crazy. It was crazy. It was like my dad's food has never tasted that good before. And so it's just like making me think like, is that how we're supposed to react to food? Because I've been like, with me just eating fruit and stuff like that, I've been able to sustain myself pretty well. It's not like I don't feel like I'm like diminishing. I don't feel like I'm disappearing. I don't feel like I'm like losing anything, or at least I might be losing body fat, but I'm still able to maintain muscle. And I don't feel like as if like, I'm becoming weaker or I'm going to disappear or I'm going to like, it's not like all these things are going to, like I'm getting any bad ailments or whatever the case may be. If anything, I feel pretty healthy. I feel pretty fine compared to me eating rice and oats and bread. And so with that, like those 2 experiences, it's just so interesting, right? The first time it was like as if I had just smoked crack for the first time. And then the second time, and then I'm eating fruit, right? I broke my fast with fruit. And it just feels like a normal meal. It just feels normal. It just feels like this is fine. This is me eating. It didn't like, set off any crazy pathways and brain paths in my brain and stuff like that. Like, it's just so interesting how those two different experiences, come together, right? And another thing too, when it comes to some challenges, of course, I mean, at least outside of myself, my parents were definitely concerned with me doing a 3 day fast, but that's just to be expected. It's like, you know, who is going an extended period of time with no food, like more than not even more than a day, more than like 15 hours? Who's going that far without eating food, right? Like most people don't do that. And so when they hear like, oh, 72 hours, no food, they're gonna look at me like I'm crazy or something, right? And they have a good reason to, but with all the research and all the things I've been looking into with like, different ways of eating and fasting and stuff like that, it's just like I've only seen so many benefits, like just mostly benefits from doing that, especially even if you're like already a healthy person, like how, I might be considered a healthy person. I consider myself a healthy person. And if I just want to increase my health and my longevity as well, then why not also do fasting or make fasting like a regular part of my life or my lifestyle in general? But like, it was definitely interesting having like a little bit of back and forth with my dad about like how long I wanted to fast. At first I told him like 48 hours, but originally I really wanted to do 72 hours. And so like I just like said, you know what, I'm going to do 72 hours, and I did. And they at the end they let me. And I've experienced this. I asked my dad this morning, like, do you think I'm a human? He's like, nah, man, I think you're like superhuman. I don't think you're on this world or something. And so, but to me, I feel like this is something we're all capable of. We can all do this. Everybody can work their way up to just fasting, even just a 36-hour fast. I'm not going to say you need to do a 3-day fast or whatever. There's definitely a lot of health benefits to that. But if you're just in general not interested in that, then that's okay. I'm just kind of giving you guys my experience and what I've went through and like how I felt. And honestly, I felt great. And right now I feel pretty good. Even with it being like close to nighttime, it's just like so interesting, like how I feel in my own body. I just feel better. I just feel like more like alive, I guess. Maybe that's how I can describe it. I can't really describe it, but yeah. Another thing is like I'm definitely questioning like hunger. Now this might sound crazy, like what are you talking about, hunger? No, when you get hungry, you eat, duh, right? But it's like when I would get hungry, think of when you get hungry, right? Think of what you're not thinking of just like eating. You're thinking of foods in general. You might be attached to certain food and their taste and their smell and how they look. And when you're getting hungry, you're thinking of that right now. Maybe you might not always have the same the thing that you want, but you're gonna kind of like have something similar or something with a similar taste or something like that, right? Or you're gonna have foods that you're used to eating. So like for me, I was eating like way back, like not way back, just even a couple months ago, I was eating just oatmeal and eggs every single morning. And like let's say I'd wake up and I would do intermittent fasting. When I would get hungry, like I already knew like, okay, I'm gonna get oatmeal and eggs, right? And then I could already taste that food, how that food would taste in my mouth before I even started preparing it. And so, but with me just eating fruit and with me doing fasting, when I would get hungry, the food I would think of was not fruit. It wasn't fruit. I wasn't thinking of bananas. I wasn't thinking of watermelon. I wasn't thinking of mangoes. I was thinking of like usual cooked foods, right? And that might question someone. That might make you think like, well, if you were craving those foods, doesn't that mean that you probably need them? Now, a way to kind of answer that is at least like what I think is no, because if I'm able to be sustained off of just eating what I've been eating, and for me to not feel like I'm losing anything, like I'm not losing out on any actual like health benefits from eating certain foods, then I feel fine, right? Like now maybe like you as an individual, like maybe you do keto or carnivore, that might help and benefit you. Maybe you can function well and you don't have any problems or bloating issues when you eat like, you know, rice and oatmeal and bread, right? Me personally, I have those problems. If anything, it's like it runs in the family for us to have a lot of issues when it comes to eating those, like, you know, complex carbs, those starchy foods, right? So it's just like looking at my family lineage and just looking at human physiology of what I think we should and should not be eating. I'm making the choices that I believe are going to just better my health in general, right? But that's about all I have to say. Check out my other videos where I talk about fasting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and my own experience, and let me know about your experiences about fasting, or if you have any questions or whatever the case may be. But yeah, peace out. See you guys in the next one.